The next day, Training Hall 7. The chamber was vast, circular, and filled with floating platforms drifting in unpredictable patterns. Holographic constructs of warriors, beasts, and impossible creatures shimmered around the edges. Riven stepped onto the first platform and immediately stumbled, barely catching himself from falling into a holographic lion. Elra moved like gravity obeyed her commands. "Follow my lead," she instructed, demonstrating a sequence of precise movements. Cross-step, pivot, upward guard, energy blade sweep. Riven tried to mirror her, but clumsiness and gravity shifts turned the attempt into chaos. "Commit fully," Elra murmured when he finally landed in some semblance of position. "At least you try." Hours passed. Riven was bruised, exhausted, and barely keeping up. But with each stumble, Elra's soft guidance and occasional sharp glance molded his movements. Slowly, unpredictability became adaptability. After training, she guided him to the refreshment chamber. Food floated in levitating streams, glowing crystals lined the walls, and a table materialized before them. One tray held delicately arranged crystalline fruits, the other a glowing nutritional block. "It contains all necessary nutrients for your species," she explained. "It also looks like it's judging you." Riven poked it cautiously. "It probably is." They ate in silence, a subtle warmth growing between them. Elra studied him with curious eyes, noticing his hesitations, his gestures, his humanity. "You adapt quickly," she said suddenly. "Tripping prepares you for many things," Riven replied. She tilted her head. "Unexpectedly wise. I'll take it." A threat emerges. Later, on the observation deck, stars stretched endlessly beyond the transparent dome. Riven found Elra already there, her posture perfect, hands clasped behind her back. "The ship hums at night," he admitted. "It feels like it's judging my dreams." "It hums to stabilize the subspace field," she replied. "But if you wish to believe it disapproves, that is your choice." Before the conversation could continue, red warning lights flashed. "Another sabotage attempt," Elra murmured. "This makes 3 this cycle." Someone wanted him dead. As they reached the sub-deck, sparks flew from a compromised conduit. Riven froze. Elra pushed him aside just as a wave of energy arced through the room. She twisted, taking only a fraction of the blast, and rose with armor sparking. "This was aimed at you," she said quietly. "To me." Riven stammered. "Yes. If you die, the binding dissolves. Some would see that as a solution." Riven's stomach dropped, but her next words made him blink. A soft, reluctant laugh escaped her lips. "You describe attempted murder as rude." "Extremely rude," Riven corrected. Her amusement faded into something gentler. The bond between them, initially accidental, was beginning to solidify. They walked back together, steps in sync, a quiet connection forming in the shadow of danger. The council decision. The council chamber rose like a crystalline crown. Queen Na presided, flanked by ceremonial guards. Council members' eyes bore into them, ancestral weight pressing down. "The sabotage attempt has been confirmed," the Queen announced. "A faction sought to break the right by ending Corporal Riven Drake's life. Justice will be dealt. But the future of the binding remains." Elra spoke. "He did not save me out of obligation. He saved me because it is who he is. He has faced danger, trained, and endured beside me. Unity between our kinds is not a burden." Riven swallowed, heart pounding. Queen Na turned to him. "What do you choose, Corporal Drake?" He stepped forward, voice steady. "I choose to stand with her, not because law demands it, but because I want to." A murmur of approval swept through the chamber. The right of preservation would remain, but by shared will, not decree. A quiet moment. Later, on the observation deck, Riven and Elra stood side by side. Stars drifted past like promises fulfilled. "When I first learned a human saved me," Elra said softly, "I feared appearing weak. Then I feared the right would trap us. But today, you've turned fear into something else." "Hopefully something good," Riven replied. She laughed quietly, serene and warm. "Something very good." Their hands touched. Not a claim, Not a promise, just an anchor. The vast ship hummed around them, carrying them toward a future neither had planned, shaped not by law or fate, but by quiet, imperfect human choice. Riven had arrived as an ordinary soldier, lost and stumbling. Now, he was part of something larger, stronger, and unexpectedly hopeful. And beside him, Era's hand squeezed his once, a quiet assurance in the infinite void. The stars outside glimmered as if agreeing. The universe had shifted. He had shifted. And somehow, amidst exploding ships, starborn royalty, and impossible odds, Riven finally felt he belonged. The battlefield reeked of burning metal and scorched ozone, a scent that made Corporal Riven Drake wince. Explosions echoed in the distance, punctuated by the crackle of malfunctioning energy shields and the groan of shattered dropships. He had been sent to retrieve survivors, which would have been simple if the wreckage didn't seem determined to kill anyone who touched it. Every 4 minutes, another small explosion rattled the steel carcass like a ticking clock. Cursing under his breath, Riven ducked under a collapsing bulkhead, ignoring the sparks that danced dangerously close. That's when he saw her. Half buried under twisted metal, a figure lay perfectly still. Her skin was a pale, shimmering blue, her platinum hair coated in dust, and her long, elegant ears twitched faintly when he touched her shoulder. Even unconscious, she looked regal, like someone who belonged in a palace rather than a battlefield. Riven didn't recognize her species, but he knew she wasn't one of his squad. His team usually snored in the chaos. This woman did not. The metal above groaned ominously. With no time to ponder decorum, Riven lifted her into his arms. She felt impossibly light, almost weightless, and for a moment, he wondered if adrenaline had temporarily turned him into a forklift. He sprinted toward the exit, dodging floating debris and flickering patches of gravity from the failing dropship core. At one point, he jumped over a crate spinning in slow mockery. When he finally burst into open air, the battlefield had become a sea of chaos. Medics darted across the scorched ground, drones zipped overhead with mechanical precision, and distant plasma fire lit the sky in angry bursts of orange and green. He laid her on a stabilizing pad, praying she would survive. The medic scanning her device froze. "Oh, stars. What have you done?" he whispered. "What do you mean?" Riven asked. "You'll see," came the reply, just as the sky split open. A formation of colossal star cruisers descended, their obsidian hulls gleaming in fractured sunlight. A shimmering portal opened at the center of the lead ship, forming a walkway of pure light. Soldiers in polished silver armor marched out in perfect unison, their movements precise and intimidating. And then she appeared. Queen Narith of the Yeri Dominion. Tall, commanding, impossibly regal. Her blue skin matched the woman he had saved. Her long ears framed a crown shaped like a constellation, and her presence alone felt like the weight of entire empires pressing down. Her gaze fell on the unconscious woman. A subtle softening passed over her expression before her eyes locked onto Riven. "You have performed an act of preservation," she said, her voice calm yet heavy with authority. "The right must be honored." Riven blinked. What now?" "You'll see soon enough," her second-in-command muttered, barely suppressing a smile. The queen knelt and pressed her hand to the woman's forehead. The figure stirred slightly. It was a princess. Riven's life, he realized, had just become far more complicated. "You will be brought to the palace ship for formalization," the queen said, turning to him. "Formalization?" Riven croaked. "Marriage, human," the queen replied serenely. Riven's knees nearly gave out. He had been an ordinary corporal 9 minutes ago. Now he was to be married to a starborn princess he had saved, against all reason, against all preparation. The palace ship rose above the battlefield like a floating continent, its halls shimmering with starlight and impossible architecture. A magnetic lift pulled him upward, his boots leaving the ground. The alien soldiers escorted him without flinching, and he flailed like an untrained marionette. The corridors inside the ship glimmered with shifting constellations, holographic landscapes, and floating gardens. It was a palace that seemed alive, aware, and infinitely patient. Riven's quarters were luxurious beyond imagination. A bed large enough for a squad, walls transparent to the starfield beyond, and a voice-activated AI assistant introducing itself as LRA, his personal adaptive assistant. "I have scanned your psychological profile," the AI said. "Your bravery settings are customizable." "Bravery settings?" Riven muttered. "Yes," it replied cheerfully, as if everything explained itself. Before he could process this, Princess Elra entered, tall and regal in sleek training armor, long ears adorned with metallic rank bands. "You will report to Training Hall 7 at first cycle," she said, voice calm but commanding. "If you are to be bound to me, you must learn to wield a weapon properly." Riven tried to smile confidently, only to trip on the edge of the doorframe. Elra's ears twitched faintly. Was it disapproval or amusement? Probably both. The Courier drifted through the violet haze of the Hyla Nebula, its massive hull reflecting shards of starlight like a cathedral of metal and energy. Inside, Corporal Riven Drake was already awake, though he wished fervently that the ship had not chosen this hour to broadcast a motivational subspace hum that vibrated through his chest and made his teeth rattle. Princess Era stood near the observation dome, silent, long ears angled slightly forward as she watched the swirling nebula. Her gaze carried the weight of someone who had never been free to choose, her body poised in elegance, yet her eyes hinted at a careful, cautious hope. Riven felt an unfamiliar nervous energy. He wasn't a diplomat. He wasn't a strategist. And yet, somehow, he had been made central to the survival of an entire dominion. "Morning, Your Highness," he muttered, attempting humor. Her lips curved faintly. "Morning, Corporal Drake. You slept longer than expected. Or perhaps the ship allowed it." Riven grinned awkwardly. "I consider any uninterrupted sleep a minor victory." She tilted her head. Minor victories are often the most important. Before Riven could respond, the Courier's internal system chimed. The soft glow of the hallway flickered. "Intruder alert, Subdeck 12, a robotic voice announced. Riven froze. He had barely adjusted to palace life, and now sabotage was already tracking him down. Era's eyes sharpened. "Follow me," she commanded, her voice calm, but steel hidden underneath. "We cannot allow interference to escalate." They moved quickly, corridors bending light around them, the Courier's gravity shifting subtly with each step, testing Riven's balance. Floating stairways, glimmering rails, and shifting panels made him feel like he was navigating through a living puzzle. Era's movements were effortless, a predator in armor, her every step precise, as if the ship itself acknowledged her as its queen. Riven, by contrast, stumbled once, narrowly avoiding a collision with a rotating console. "You do realize," he panted, "this is not a proper training ground, right?" She glanced over her shoulder, expression neutral but amused. "The ship is neither proper nor improper. It is effective. You will adapt." Riven gritted his teeth. Adapted soldiers rarely look this ridiculous. Era allowed a faint smile, the twitch of her ears betraying amusement. Ridiculous can be charming if applied wisely. The sabotage uncovered. Subdeck 12 was a hive of activity. Engineers ran in precise patterns, their suits reflecting the flashes of uncontrolled energy arcs jumping along conduits. The red warning lights of the ship blinked in chaotic pulses, warning of critical overloads. Era stepped forward, commanding the room silently. The engineers halted mid-motion, recognizing her authority. Riven scanned the chaos, unsure where to start. What's happening?" he asked. "This was an attempt to disable the ship's power core," Era explained, "and potentially eliminate the binding between us." Riven's stomach dropped. "Wait. Someone wants me dead, again?" "Yes," she said plainly. "Some believe the right should never be exercised. That humans are unworthy of joining Yiri bloodlines. Others fear your survival threatens political balance." A conduit arced violently, sending a shower of sparks across the floor. Riven jumped back, tripping over a loose cable and landing with a thud. Era's hand shot out, steadying him with surprising strength. "You are not hopeless," she said. "Just unpredictable." "Thanks," Riven muttered, scraping himself off the floor. "I'll take it as a compliment." Era moved to the main control panel. Her fingers danced over the holographic interface, rerouting energy flows and stabilizing the surging conduits. The system responded instantly, the lights gradually returning to calm blue. "You see," she said, standing upright, "the ship itself recognizes your survival as necessary." Riven blinked. "The ship recognizes me. That sounds terrifying." Her eyes softened. Necessary is not always frightening. Sometimes, it is inevitable. Unexpected lessons. Later, Riven found himself in the training hall again, still bruised from his earlier clumsy attempts. Era stood before him, energy blade drawn, eyes sharp. Today's lesson was not combat alone, it was synchronization. "You must move with me," she explained, demonstrating a flowing sequence of strikes, pivots, and guards. "Your survival depends on understanding timing, balance, and anticipation. Not just of my movements, but of the ship itself." Riven nodded, gripping his blade with white knuckles. The first attempt was disastrous. He staggered, twisted, and collided with a floating platform that drifted unexpectedly. The energy blade whined dangerously close to his leg, and he yelped. Era's ears twitched, but she only waited silently. "Focus," she finally said. "Predict. Do not react. Preempt." He tried again, this time slower, cautiously following her steps. The platform shifted beneath him, but he adjusted, his instincts sharpening. Era's movements remained fluid, effortless, like water flowing around a rock. By the fourth attempt, Riven was no longer crashing. He was sliding, pivoting, and striking in sync with her. Era studied him, long ears twitching. "You adapt quickly," she observed. "Most humans would take far longer." "I trip a lot," Riven admitted. "But tripping prepares you for unexpected things." Her lips curved faintly, approval in the smallest gesture. "Wise. Take it." Night in the observation deck. Exhausted but exhilarated, Riven found himself wandering the observation deck once more. Stars drifted lazily past the transparent dome, the nebula glowing with streaks of violet and gold. He wasn't alone. Era approached quietly, her presence calm but commanding. "You are awake late," she noted. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted. "Your ship hums at night. It's judging me." "It hums to stabilize the subspace field," she said, the corner of her mouth lifting. "But if you wish to believe it disapproves of your subconscious, that is your choice." He chuckled. "Judgmental ship. Nice touch." She laughed softly, the sound like distant bells. "You are different from what I expected. Not just human, but genuine." The words caught him off guard. "I try," he said. "Mostly to survive. And, well, to not embarrass myself in front of royalty." "You do not embarrass yourself," she said. "You challenge the order of this ship simply by existing in it. And that is commendable." A sudden threat. Suddenly, a pulse of red light swept across the walls. The ship shuddered slightly. "A warning," Era said immediately, moving toward the control panel embedded in her bracer. "Another sabotage attempt." "Another?" Riven asked, alarmed. "Yes. Third this cycle." Her gaze sharpened. "Some within the Dominion do not approve of the binding." The lights flickered. A low hum filled the deck, building to a dangerous pitch. Riven's hand shook slightly. "What now?" "Containment and verification," Era said. "We must prevent the interference before it escalates." They raced through dim corridors, the ship alive with subtle shifts, the gravity beneath their boots fluctuating unpredictably. Sparks leapt across the walls, and unstable energy arcs danced like lightning trapped in tubes. Riven barely kept pace, flailing at every step. Era moved like a shadow, precise, calculated, commanding without needing words. A conduit exploded in a flash of blue energy, and Era reacted instantly, pushing Riven back, taking the brunt of the blast herself. Her armor sparked, but she was largely unharmed. "This was aimed at you," she said, brushing away the residual energy. "To break the right, they would end your life." Riven froze. "Me?" "Yes. Extremely rude," she added, then a flicker of laughter escaped her lips. Riven stared. "Extremely rude is putting it mildly." Her laughter softened, warmth reaching her eyes. For a moment, the fear and chaos of the ship faded. They were not just human and princess. They were allies, partners in survival. The Council and the Right. Later, the council chamber convened once more. Queen Nertha's presence was a gravitational force, her authority pressing down on all present. The council members, seated in carved positions of historical significance, were tense. The sabotage attempts have been confirmed, the Queen announced. A faction sought to break the right of preservation by ending the life of Corporal Riven Drake. Murmurs echoed through the chamber. Riven clenched his fists, feeling the weight of the room's judgment, expectation, and hope. Era stepped forward, her voice steady. Corporal Drake did not act out of obligation. He acted with courage and integrity. The right proceeds not because it must, but because it is chosen. Queen Nertha's gaze softened slightly, a rare concession. The right shall continue, she declared. But let it be known that it proceeds not by law alone, but by mutual will. Riven exhaled. Relief, disbelief, and fierce resolve washed over him. Era's hand brushed his. Not possession, not ownership, but recognition. They had survived the chaos together. They had chosen each other. The Courier drifted onward, stars like silent witnesses, carrying them toward a future of trials, challenges, and shared destiny. Riven, once an ordinary soldier, now walked among royalty, not as a pawn, but as a partner. He squeezed her hand. She returned it firmly, their steps aligned as the ship hummed, steady, patient, and unjudging. For the first time, Riven felt ready.